On today's episode of the Happy House, game on! Turn off the TV and play games with your family tonight. You won't believe how easy it was to make this beautiful serving tray out of recycled materials. It's a struggle for all parents how to get your kids to read. Tips from the expert coming up next. Stay tuned for the Happy House.
Do you know what my favorite night of every week is? Family game night.
Family game night? It is lots of fun, isn't it? Hey, let's talk about what we do on family game night. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, we always talk about family game night, but one idea is planning it maybe a Sunday afternoon. It doesn't necessarily have to be at night. So think of a time when your family is around all at one time and make that be your special time for getting together. So your family game night might be family game Sunday afternoon. I think when you have a family that has a lot of ages, it's sometimes hard to pick a game. So you might want to consider picking a game where you can actually pair people up. So if you have older people and younger people in your family, go ahead and pair up younger children with an adult or an older sibling, and they can play the game as a team. It's also very important to teach kids about winning and losing, because it actually is okay to lose a game, isn't it? Yeah? Right? You can't be the winner all the time. I know. That's how I feel too, but it's just important that they understand and say, hey, there's always next time, right? What's this game right here?
Quirkle.
So the object of the game is to get a sequence of 6 of all the same color but different shape, or all the same shape but different color. So this is a quirkle right here, and this is a quirkle right here. I love quirkle because it actually comes with this handy carrying case, and we simply put a pad of paper and a pencil in ours, and then it's on the go fun. And it's ages 6+, but actually you can scale it down to maybe even age 4. Another fun game, an oldie but a goodie, is pick up sticks. This set right here is actually also a very beautiful coffee table piece, but it's oversized and it's lots of fun to play. Everything is better when it's bigger, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger the better.
Oh, so you simply take this ring off, and I'm not gonna, these will go all over, and let the sticks fall. Each player has their own stick and tries to remove a stick from the pile without moving any of the other sticks. At the end of the game, the player with the most sticks wins. And then another new version of a game which is bigger and better is this big boggle. So this is traditional boggle, where you obviously have the dice in here and shake it, let them all settle, try to find hidden words. And then this one's different because it's a bigger board, so longer words can be made. This is a perfect example of a game where when you have younger and older kiddos playing together, you might want to pair them up to make the game more accessible to an emerging reader, but it can be lots of fun to play in teams. All right, let's move on to one of the most important parts of family game night.
The food.
The foods. We have put together some really fun snacks today. Of course, we have popcorn, but make it even more fun by finding popcorn containers at your local party store. It just adds a little bit of, just makes the night a little bit more special. Popcorn tastes better out of a popcorn container. And then we've also put together these domino brownies, which are simply a very thin brownie cut into strips. We've put some M&Ms on here, and then we've used chocolate icing to simply make a strip across and divide the domino. This is another sweet treat, which is lots of fun, which are these pool balls we've made out of Rice Krispie mixture. So basically mix up a batch of Rice Krispie bars, roll them into balls, and then you can use fruit by the foot or fruit roll-up to cover the entire ball. And we took these little white candy discs and cut the tip off and put them on upside down, and then used, again, the chocolate icing to go ahead and put the numbers on here. And of course we have these pretzel rods as our pool cues. And then this is actually a really fun idea. This is an oversized game of Jenga made out of breadsticks. Should we try to play? Carefully. I'm just going to try it. Boom.
This is easier than the regular.
Don't. All right. So you've got your fun snacks and you've planned your time and you've selected the game. It's also just really important to make the most of the time. No matter how long your family game night lasts, make sure that you're connecting. Be connected as a family. So encourage people to put away their electronics. And oftentimes parents are the worst culprits with electronics, if I speak for myself. So put away your phones, turn off everything else, come together and talk, play together, and just enjoy the company of your family. I'm at one of my very favorite places, Mama's Happi. This nifty little store is full of all kinds of upcycled things, from furniture to jewelry to upholstery, and I just love coming here. It really actually does make me happy. I'm lucky enough to be with Amanda, who owns Mama's Happi. I know some of what's special about chalk paint, but talk to me about it. What exactly is it, and how is it going to change my life?
All right, so it is going to change your life. I'll start with that. So the beauty of it is that you don't have to do any priming or sanding or preparation to the surface. So many pieces of furniture that we're rescuing, these aren't fine antiques. We're taking things that people are setting out by the curb to get rid of, or tossing in the dumpster because they don't see any value. And those are the pieces that you wouldn't spend the time or energy to try to strip down or refinish. But slapping a coat of paint on it and giving it a new life is absolutely worth your time.
Because it's still a sturdy piece.
Absolutely.
It just maybe is not the right wood tone, or even the hardware maybe just needs to be changed out. All of that.
Exactly right.
Okay.
It just opens up a lot of possibilities. And the finish that you get using the paint is so beautiful and it's so predictable. So what's nice about it is that you don't have to have skill. You truly do not have to be an artist.
Check, check. Okay.
Yeah, so you'll be just fine.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And so one of the things we were talking about earlier is, and I still don't believe you on this, but I'm going to take your word for it, is there is no prep with chalk paint.
Truly, there is not any preparation. And what's great about that is that when you put that first coat on, it is going to adhere to any surface, no matter how glossy, no matter how shiny, it will stick to it.
Well, I'm excited. Let's get started. So what we have here is a kitchen cabinet door, it looks like.
Yes.
Now, where do these come from?
Well, you can find them a number of places. Cabinet shops many times will sell or sometimes even give away their sample doors or doors that had any kind of a defect. If it had a defect, that's usually the ones that we want anyway. So we'll pick them up that way. Salvage yards many times will have them, but you can pick them up for as little as $1 a piece.
Wow.
Then it's fun to be able to take something like that and turn it into something that has a purpose.
Okay.
So what we'll do is start with just putting some paint on it. And again, I'm not doing anything to the board before I do that. And the beauty of Annie's paint is you don't have to have any technique to it, especially when you're doing this first coat. It's just a matter of getting the paint on the board.
It's covering really nicely. It's beautiful.
It's a medium-bodied paint, so it is very thick. So many times one coat is fine. I tend to enjoy putting a second coat on. I feel like it just sort of finishes it, but you will see many times, especially if you're not going over something that's dark, that you don't need to do a second coat.
Now, that brush, I've never really seen a brush. I mean, I have a brush similar to that at home, but I haven't seen one quite like that. Is there something special about that particular brush?
Well, customers always ask, do I need the brush to be able to use her paint? Absolutely not. Any brush will do.
Okay.
But is it great to have awesome tools, just like in anything? Yes. I had a makeup artist in one time say, oh, it's all about the brushes. Yeah. So it really is a nice tool to use, the way it puts the paint on. The fact that it is so dense with bristles, it holds a lot of paint. Okay. So I usually tell people, if you're just planning to do one project at home, any brushes will do.
So we get the paint on, and then how long does it take to dry?
It's very quick drying because there are not sealants in the paint itself. Okay. It is unsealed, and so we'll show you how you use a wax to finish that. Okay. But because of that, it's very absorbent. It dries very quickly. Okay, right. So we'll just let that dry. I'll show you what it will look like once it is dried but has not been waxed.
Okay.
And that's the next step, is the soft wax.
Now these edges are sanded. Or they look to be sanded.
Yes.
Did you sand those down for the distressing? Okay.
And what's interesting, I just used a damp cloth to do that. The paint wipes off so easily when it's dry that you can just take a damp cloth and take off as little or as much as you want.
Okay.
And that also controls the mess.
All right.
So I don't know if you noticed that there really is no odor to the paint.
No, there isn't.
So you can paint right in the middle of your house and not have to worry about the smell.
That's great. And so now we're going to do the wax. And the wax does what?
The wax is what actually seals the paint.
Okay.
So when you put the wax on, you're going to brush it on just like you were the paint.
Okay.
And what's great about that, if you've ever worked with polyurethane where you had to get it just perfect.
I have, yes. It's frustrating.
It is frustrating. And if you ever get a peel or a scratch or a nick in it, it shows, and then many times you have to come back and redo the whole thing. Okay, so that's how you put the wax on. And then once I finish, I'll just take a clean, dry cloth and wipe just to get any excess wax off.
And then how long does that take to dry?
So there really isn't a drying time with the wax. It's more about letting it harden. And so over 24 hours time, the white spirits will evaporate and you're left with just the solid. But when you have the right amount of wax on, it should feel dry immediately.
So perfect. I have a painted and waxed cupboard door.
Yes.
Yes, that's it. Now what?
Okay.
Yes.
So one fun idea that we have done quite often in my shops is that we will take that and then add a fun piece of hardware and make it into a tray. So in this case, you want to just make sure that you're picking hardware where the screw goes in from the top versus some hardware that's made for cabinets. It's meant to go in the back side of the door, and you wouldn't want to have that sitting on your
This is really great.
Isn't
Where
that
would you
beautiful?
find something like this?
You know, we spend a lot of time at architectural salvage places where you
Okay.
can find old things like that. In this scenario, I was at an estate sale, and Lord knows why, he had boxes of hardware. And of course, for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
So I snatched it all up with no idea what I would do with it. But, you know, and then
And voila.
voila, here comes your need. So you just want to make sure that you pick a design that has the screw going in from the top. It could be decorative only, or it could be functional.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That was easy.
Yeah. So in that, few minutes time, you've got a beautiful tray.
This would make a really nice gift too.
It would make a great gift.
That is so amazing.
Thanks.
I happen to notice that this paint is a little bit more expensive than buying like a semi-gloss or something at the
Yes.
hardware store. How long is this going to last me? Like, what kind of project can I do with that can of paint?
Well, that's the key. When you first hear the price point, it's $38.95 a quart.
Okay.
People gulp.
Yeah.
But once you see that you should, out of one quart, be able to do an entire dining room set. So you could do your table and all your chairs out of a quart. When you think of it that way,
That's not a big investment.
not a big investment.
Especially when you found that thing out on the curb.
That's right. We love curbside.
Okay, we've got this beautiful tray. Is there anything else you can do or any other ideas?
Another idea, especially if we find these that don't have the beadboard in the middle but have a solid,
So it's flat?
solid panel in the middle, is that we will paint the entire door with chalk paint, and then we go and get chalkboard paint.
So this is the chalk paint right
Correct,
here, and then
correct.
this is chalkboard paint.
Exactly.
Okay.
Totally different product, meant to be written on and wiped off.
Okay.
And we'll paint the center with that. Here we've just added a simple drawer pull, and that would hold your chalk.
Yep.
And then one little piece of rope and some clothespins could hold notes, could hold pictures,
Very cute.
and then hang it right on your wall.
I love it.
So those are two easy ideas. They make great gifts, and it's just a fun project that you can do all in one sitting.
It is so great. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this
Yes,
information.
thank you for having
I
me.
love these. I might have to take this home with me. Okay. All right. To learn more about Mama's Happy and the projects we did today, visit our website. We all know how important it is to get kids reading. Some kids love it, some kids hate it. But how do you even get the kids that love to read what they're supposed to? How much reading is enough? We are here today with expert Karen Emerson, who actually is a reading specialist, has her master's in experiential education and over 20 years of teaching experience. And she is going to talk to us today about getting kids to read. Thanks for coming, Karen.
Absolutely. I think getting kids to read is really the crux of being a good reader. Studies show over and over again that the kids who read most read best. And of course, what do you do with the kids who hate reading? And even the kids who do like reading often choose other things.
Right. I think it's just so important because we've got science and math and all of those things in school, but reading is what really opens up your world. If you can read, you can do almost anything. Let's talk about reluctant readers. How can we get them started?
Well, reluctant readers, often a key is to make sure that they're being 95% accurate. And you can do that in a couple of ways. One way is to make sure you're finding books at levels that they can mostly read, where they're only making a few mistakes. Because if you're reading things where you're 95% accurate, then you are understanding the book, you're understanding the vocabulary, you're building your vocabulary, and there's a level of interest and fun in it. When you're struggling with so many words, all you're doing is practicing decoding. It's not interesting because your short-term memory is used up with decoding. And it's not fun. So then the way to become 95% accurate is with help. So maybe I'm going to read with you who is struggling reading, and as soon as you stumble on a word, I just feed it to you. So you're practicing the words you know, and I'm giving you the words you don't. So you're not stressing about the decoding, you're not stressing about the reading, and so I might be feeding you 15 words on a page, and if they're reading out loud or if they're reading to themselves, they just point to it and you tell them.
As you mentioned, I like to read with my children one page at a time. It does seem to reduce the stress. They know that they only have to do half of it. What if you have kids who love to read, but then there are certain things they don't love to read, but they have to read?
One way to approach it is just the independence route. You're going to need to read, of Mice and Men for this book report for your, how are you going to handle that? What's the best way for you to handle that? If this is a child who reads well, then they don't need the practice reading. You could read it out loud to them. You could borrow it from the library on tape. Now, I'd never watch the movie instead, but listening to it on tape or you reading out loud to your child might be a more enjoyable way to hear that.
How do we make kids choose reading, even though kids love reading, versus electronics? Dun dun dun, the age-old question. So what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, we really need to think like marketers. We really need to think about, if I want my kid to love reading, then they need to walk into our home and see it all around them. They need to walk in, and the first thing they need to see are a bunch of books face out, not spine out, because a spine isn't interesting. And it needs to be magazines, it needs to be comic books. Reading is where kids get vocabulary. Comic books have fabulous vocabulary, So
Adjectives, a lot of adjectives and expressive language, yes.
And parents shouldn't worry about what their kids are reading. It can be comic books, it can be directions, it can be a cereal box, anything as long as they're reading. When you walk in, if the first thing you see is a television, it's pretty easy to plop down on the couch and click it on. For me too.
Yes.
And so if you move the television to the basement and you put the remote away in a high shelf in a drawer, so that it's just takes that many more steps to get there, and it's that much easier to plop down on the couch and pick up something to read.
Same concept as making healthy snacks easier to get at than sugary snacks. So I actually have one of the books we have here is one of my son's favorites, and I want to talk about this a little bit because this book is called Pick Me Up, and it's actually full. Every different page is kind of on a different topic, and it gives you a lot of little factoids on it. And I love this because it's like bite size, it's like snacking. It's a snack for readers. You can learn just a little bit about a topic. So, and then you've got great stories, like Matilda by Roald Dahl, which is more involved reading. So I think offering a variety of different kinds of reading materials is also important. You've shared so much with us today. Do you have anything else you want to add, or
I would just say keep reading out loud to your kids. It's such a bonding time and it's such a family time, and that's a way to introduce genres too, where as a teacher I always try to get all the different genres in throughout the year, but as a parent, before you go to bed or whenever is the best time, gather the family around, the whole family, mom, dad, kids, and read a Roald Dahl book, read different kinds of genres, and that's another way to just get them interested. The other way to trick kids who don't like reading is to read the first third of a very interesting book and then stop.
Yes. Oh, funny. Karen, you are such a wealth of information. We could talk about this for hours because actually reading is very near and dear to my heart. But I'm sure people must have a lot of questions, and there's a lot more you could say about the topics we've been discussing. Are you available online, or how would people find out more about the things you have to teach?
I am developing 2 websites. One is really geared towards parents and how to help their kids in school and reading and that kind of thing. And the other one is geared towards how to learn how to read.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and it was just really a pleasure. If you want to see more of this interview or learn more about the things Karin and I discussed today, visit our website. I'm at Creative Kid Stuff with today's toy pick, which is travel toys. I've got an assortment of things here that are great for bringing on trips in the car, even short trips. Oftentimes, even just a 45-minute trip to grandma's can seem like a really long time for someone who's young. So these things are great for that kind of thing, or extended trips like a family road trip or a trip on an airplane. They're all quiet activities, and there are a variety of activities for kids of all ages here. This memory game is really great because all of the pieces actually stay connected. So players simply flip open the doors and try to find a match. It comes with different cards which have a front side and a back side, so there's a variety of different games kids can play. When they do find a match, they can use this handy scorekeeper at the bottom to keep score. I love this Where's Waldo travel collection because it is so full of puzzles. It's for an older child because it is a little bit smaller, but you open the book and you can see all of the detail here. And then pages actually fold out to give you checklists of things to look for. There's a lot of activities here to keep kids busy for a very long time. This is a tangle, and it's simply manipulative. So a lot of times when kids are getting antsy and their whole bodies start to move, having something small that they can distract their body and get their energy out with their hands actually is very calming and can quiet them right down. Here's a set of mini games that are a really great quiet thinking activity for the ride. Basically, in this game, you try to identify which of the objects in the row across the top does not appear in the picture below. There's a variety of different illustrations which are engaging and very sweet, and kids just like to look at them. They're visually interesting. Finally, I have something that most people wouldn't think to bring along in a car, which is some of your smaller toys from home that kids really enjoy. So they're not necessarily travel themed like these items are. However, they're small and can be handled very easily by kids and used for imaginative play. I've chosen this mama and baby elephant. So they could maybe be, you as the parent could work with the child to have, they can hold the baby, you can hold the mama, you could have a conversation back and forth, or kiddos can simply play with these items all on their own. To learn more about these travel items and other great ideas for travel, and also to register to win this package, visit our website. Coming up next week, make it personal with gift wrap. Learn how to create custom gift wrap with items you have in your own home. Learn all about wines, how to choose them, what to serve them with, and how much to pay for them. Learn about Free Bikes for Kids, an organization that refurbishes and distributes bikes to kids every single year. Coming up next.